You're bothered. Are you hot and bothered?
No, I'm not. I'm the opposite.
Cold.
I'm pissed.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 3 of the Cupful podcast. I am Justin Tyler, and this is your co-host,
Kandace Tyler.
We are the Tylers.
I'm bothered.
So we have done, I think, 5 attempts now at an introduction. I think that's probably going to be the one that stays just because it was the most coherent. We really are out of practice.
Yeah, we're a little bit out of practice. We missed a week recording.
Missed 2 weeks of recording.
Did we miss 2 weeks?
We missed 2 weeks.
It was for a good reason.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that here in a bit. In the last episode, we committed to Friday releases weekly, and we're still going to, that's our goal. That's our overall goal. But, you know, life happens. We had somebody lined up for episode 3, and like just scheduling wise, it didn't quite work out. And that just happened to be the week that we were also getting ready for our vacation, which we're going to be talking about heavily in this podcast. So it didn't work out getting an episode 2 weeks ago. And then last week we were obviously across the country on vacation. We did manage to briefly podcast from atop a mountain.
And I don't know if we'll insert any of that we recorded because it was under a high stress situation.
It was very distracting, very high tension.
So our goal was to be able to record a full podcast on top of a mountain in Colorado, and it ended up proving to be a lot harder than we thought it was going to be.
For several reasons.
First
off, I don't know if you've ever been to the Rocky Mountain National Park, listeners, but it's a very, very busy national park. And I mean, I knew that it was going to be busy going into it, but I figured, you know, like there's going to be somewhere that we can pull off, like pull the car off and just go out just a little bit and, you know, get our mics out and be good to go.
Like you're picturing you're out in nature. So you're thinking you're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. And that's not the case at all.
It was not. We did manage to find a spot to pull over. There was no cars, nobody around. And we're like, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna cut down on some of the hardships of doing this by doing it in our car. So you wouldn't have the wind hitting the mic, which was one obstacle.
Or the cold temperatures.
Because it was pretty chilly up there, especially with the wind chill. So we decided we were gonna like podcast from one of the scenic overlooks. It wasn't even quite an overlook. It was literally just a little space where you could pull your car over. There's enough room for maybe 2 cars there. That ended up being a hassle. And again, we'll get into that later, but there was like a whole thing with that. So we briefly podcast on top of a mountain, long enough for me to say we podcasted on top of a mountain, and we will include it in this podcast. So it's official.
We hit our goal for that.
You guys are going to get the highest podcast you've ever listened to. Actually, I would say that that's probably complete bullshit.
We weren't at the 14,000 feet mark. I think we were around like 12 or 11.
It was mostly a Colorado joke.
Oh.
But you get it now.
It's legal there.
And we did not partake.
No.
Once, which I find a little surprising. Not really that surprising.
No. We had a good
blast.
time.
We had a blast without needing that. I mean, trust me, listeners, I drank plenty of water. Of alcohol.
Lots of water.
A lot of alcohol too. We had a fun time, and we're gonna be diving into this trip throughout this episode and kind of just talking about, you know, like travel for us and like why it's important and like why I hope we get the more opportunities to do so. You might remember from episode 1, you know, like we said, we have 3 children, and it does make it a little harder to be able to do like these kind of getaway trips, just me and Kandace, but we do occasionally get one. And by occasionally, I mean, this was the first one that we've had in 4 years since our honeymoon. If you don't count,
first full week away.
We did go to Phoenix, Arizona last year, but we were there for work. I was filming. Well, Kandace and I were both filming a wedding. We were there for 4 days total. One of those days was filming the wedding from basically wake up to going to bed. And the day before that was it was a lot of preparation and stuff. So plus you have the travel time. So we really didn't get to.
So this was our first full just pleasure trip. No work, just pleasure.
Since our honeymoon.
Yeah. So it was a lot. There was a lot of highs and a few lows, and it we'll get into it, but it made me really just appreciate, the family that we have. And
Yeah.
makes you, feel like you grow closer when you're apart. Just that old saying.
And it was a great time, and I'm very happy to be home though. That being said, like, it was a very, very busy week. So we did not end up filming a full episode while we were there, even though we took all of our equipment with us. I need to stop packing so much of my equipment on these trips because it never ends up getting used. I took my drone, never got it out. We took all of our podcasting mics and equipment, got it out once for like 20 minutes, and that was a bust. We were on the move too much. And when we weren't on the move toward the end of the week, we were exhausted.
And I feel like since we don't get out that often, we get so in the moment that we almost try and squeeze in too many things. So we do get exhausted, and then we don't have time to do all the things that we think that we're going to have time to do, like podcasting, flying our drone, things like that. We're more just like marveling at,
Yeah. Just
having
kind of
this
taking
time
everything
away.
in.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I'm a lot more in the moment than I would otherwise be. Even though we didn't get to film a full episode of the podcast last week, we're still committed to trying to get Friday releases as often as we can when life permits. That's our goal anyway. And we're also, you might have noticed, like episode 1, we did film the first 2 episodes. They were both very different though. Like episode 1, we had a single camera that just stayed the entire time. Episode 2, we used 2 cameras and cut kind of back and forth between us and a guest. And this one is obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, is very different. We're still experimenting with how we're going to be doing this, and it'll probably change over time until we kind of like get it down pat and get comfortable with how we're producing it. And there might even be times where we just don't really feel like filming, like putting the cameras up and having those on us. Sometimes it's just more comfortable to talk.
Yeah, sometimes I want to wear my PJs and not wear my hard pants.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to really care if we wear our PJs on camera. I don't know that any of our listeners really care about that.
Oh, I care. I'll break out the hard pants for the viewers.
The hard pants?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? So is that jeans?
I refer to hard pants as like jeans, any pants that aren't yoga pants, anything that's uncomfortable that restricts my midsection. I don't like that.
But I mean, like right now, we're sitting on our couch. We didn't have to worry about setting up the cameras and all the lighting. I feel comfortable.
Yeah, I can crisscross applesauce in my yoga pants. I wouldn't be able to do this in my hard pants.
Except I keep like sinking back into the couch further and further, and I keep having to pull the mic even closer to my mouth because it keeps getting so far away from me. Yeah, so we're going to keep experimenting, keep playing around. If you have a preference, or if there's something you see that we do that you like and you want to see us do more of that, let us know. I don't know how you'll get a hold of us, but figure it out.
Yeah, you can leave some comments. We thrive on feedback because otherwise we don't know, do people like watching or do people like listening? So we're just going to play around with a few different things and see what ends up working best.
And if you want to watch from, a branch outside of our house with binoculars, please don't.
I'm going to go close the windows really quick.
That just reminds me of what was the name of that actor that's always in all of the Adam Sandler movies? He plays he's always like a pervert, like outside the window. He did it. There was, I think, like 2 or 3 of those movies that he did that. Like,
I'm disappointed that I can't remember the name, but I know who you're talking about. He's just always lurking.
I believe it was in the movie Little Nicky. They kind of play the "Yes, it's ladies' night." there's a dirty bird. Like when he goes down to hell, like that's his punishment. There's like a horny dirty bird that like chases him around, and I don't know.
Oh, I hate that movie.
You hate Little Nicky?
Yeah, I love every Adam Sandler movie except for that one.
So you love Jack and Jill?
I'm just going to be stubborn and say yes.
Have you even seen Jack and Jill? Because I have not seen Jack and Jill.
I did see it in theaters.
That's disappointing.
During my brief movie theater.
Oh yeah,
stint.
we both had slight for a hot minute careers in the movie industry.
Movie theater industry.
I mean, I had a little bit in the movie industry as well, but in the movie theater industry, that's actually where Kandace and I met. She was my boss at a movie theater after college. And yeah, it was nice to be able to kind of just go see any movies you wanted for free.
Yeah, it was low
and not
stakes.
have to worry about whether or not it was going to be good.
You didn't have to worry if you were wasting your money. You could just go in and watch anything and everything that came out, like Jack and Jill. Sorry, Adam. Love ya. That one was rough.
it's also like I kind of feel like we went through a phase where we were a lot choosier with our movies because we get to go out so little that, you know, we had to like, all right, we got to make sure that this movie's going to be worth it. Like it's worth making the trip out. But I think that we got broken. Don't you
miss just being carefree about movies?
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm starting to kind of get back to that, just because like I feel like that broke us a little bit. And now I'm just to the point where like, oh yeah, we're getting ready to go out. I'm more concerned about like which candy am I getting?
Yeah.
And what size popcorn am I going to be going with?
Bunch of Crunch.
I don't even care that it's we made the mistake. We went to the movies one time over our vacation. We made the mistake of getting those the cookie dough bites.
Cookie dough bites, yeah.
Which I'm sure that like it says like freeze them, try them frozen on the bag, and I'm sure they would be delicious. And I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy them, but they're not Bunch of Crunch.
Bunch of Crunch is always the clear choice.
Or Raisinets. If you're gonna get two,
you can get both.
You can get both. Yeah. I like Raisinets too.
Those are really good. We had some interesting adventures on this trip, and I learned a lot about myself as a traveler going somewhere that has like a higher elevation. And I don't know, you know, how many of our listeners have like been out west or been to Colorado, namely, where you're a lot higher above sea level. I went into it thinking, oh, I'm young, like this altitude or the elevation's not going to affect me at all. I'm a young strapping 30-year-old, and it definitely just hit me out of nowhere.
Not to mention you got swole.
I got so swole. So yeah, so basically as soon as we got to Colorado, just my hands were swollen, my feet were swollen. I was feeling dizzy, just my eyes were blurry for the first few days. So it was really humbling, not to mention when you're trying to hike or do some like really normal activity, like just walking. I was so out of breath there. So that was really, really humbling. So now it's inspired me to try and get back in shape at home because it was a little bit embarrassing.
I'm not necessarily trying to get into like any sort of shape, but I am inspired to drink more water. So yeah. We've been pretty good about that this week. Yeah. We stayed so hydrated while we were there just because
we needed to out of necessity.
If I wanted to drink beer, I had to like drink 7 times as much water.
Yeah. It was joke. Wild. The physical aspects of going out west, you know, that you hear about it, you hear about altitude sickness and all of that. And I really didn't think anything about it beforehand, but it's a real thing. And it was an interesting week. We still had a really great time despite all of that. Didn't really hit Justin as much. Nothing ever does. But for me, I had like every single symptom that there could be. So day one.
Do we want to go straight into that, or are we still, we kind of hit on like the history of like our travel. We've been to like our honeymoon. We went to Boston, Massachusetts, which I love Boston. It's very near and dear to my heart. And we go through this phase after every vacation where we're like, oh, would we move here? I think I would move here. I don't think any of them have held a candle to Boston. I think that in my heart, I am a New Englander. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know.
Interesting.
What do you think about that?
I know for sure that I would not move to Colorado myself, even though it was really beautiful. I thought it was a great place to visit and get away. But I didn't have that yearning feeling of wanting to go check like realtor.com or Zillow after visiting Colorado.
And maybe it's like after each trip that we've taken, we've done that less and less, maybe just in general. But still, like there's not a week that goes by where at some point I don't talk about like, all right, we're moving to Boston or.
Well, what was it about Boston that really captured you?
I don't know. I just like. It's the setting. Like I love like just how old everything is, the history, the even the climate, like that cool breeze off the ocean, the air quality was so good. I don't like seafood, but I liked being able to smell the ocean and like the fishy smell. Like there was something about like having that around. And I don't know. I feel like that just really kind of like captured me as a person. I want to go back and get to experience some of like maybe like Salem and some other like upper like New England areas. I would really love to like see some of like the smaller charm of like going up New England. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I think that I don't know. I'm just really drawn to that. I like witchy stuff. I like
witchy stuff.
history.
I loved the
American
history.
Revolution.
I loved the history aspect of Boston. It was beautiful. I don't think I could handle those winters.
I don't mind if I don't have to drive in it, which if we lived in Boston, depending on where we lived, I don't think we'd really have to drive that much. It's a walkable enough city. We walked everywhere, and where we didn't walk, we took the train. Candace loves riding the train with me.
No.
In the mornings.
Any public transportation with Justin is like too much. You got to have at least a few cups of coffee because he'll just talk your head off. And then everyone around you will know all of your personal details because he just yells it all out with his loud radio broadcast voice.
I don't think that I yell it that loudly.
Oh, you do.
But I do have the tendency to kind of just push the limits, like push the boundaries of like what's acceptable in a social environment.
Oh yeah, I don't like that at all.
So I just start saying ridiculous things surrounded by people on the train heading into the city. It's probably a good thing that we do, you know, like if I have to drive anywhere in the mornings where we're at, it's, you know, it's a lonely solo commute. So I don't really have to worry about that so much. You probably don't want to give me coffee before, like, I know you said that you need to have at least like a couple coffees before dealing with me on the train, but I think like the coffee is what makes me bad.
Well, I at least need coffee to be able to handle it. I'll be in a really just bad mood until I have that coffee. And that doesn't help when, you know, you're yelling stuff on the train at all.
The listeners are wondering right now, like, what is he yelling? And honestly, I don't know. This is a claim that she's had for years now that I do this, but I can't think of an example of like the sort of thing that there might have been something inappropriate that I was like, I might have been talking out loud about something that we may or may not have done.
He's like perfect for like, if you love to overhear people's conversations in public.
You'll overhear my conversations for sure.
You'll 100% hear everything that he says. So loud. Loud.
You got to project for those in the back.
No, not at all.
As a theater kid, that's what I learned. So
Grandma down the train doesn't need to hear about what you did last night or
what did we do that night. I still need an example because I don't know like what I've done to like make this seem like such a terrible experience. It sounds fun to me.
Your voice is so loud and I try and like distance myself. It's like when your mom's dropping you off at school and she's like yelling stuff out the window and you're like, I don't know her.
Oh man. I'm that person.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, so we honeymooned in Boston. I feel like my heart belongs to Boston. And just New England in general. It was very, very much my vibe. I can't wait to go back. I want to go in like the fall time, like spooky season. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Oh, Candace, you're yawning.
I'm sorry. I tried to not yawn in the microphone. I was trying to be kind.
We put our kids to bed first before we started, so it's a little late. But yeah, anyway.
But you got to do it when you can.
You got to do it when you can.
And I think
that's what we're trying to do now. Is just we're going to do it when we can. We're going to try to stay consistent as much as we can. If we are not consistent, apologies. But for those of you who stick around and listen to every episode, we appreciate you and thank you so much. And that's the end of our podcast.
We're just getting started, baby.
We're just getting started. So Candace is over here yawning already. I don't know. You might need to stop drinking the beer and get some coffee, actually.
So we know
Boston.
We all know I need coffee to talk to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. So you loved Boston. You wanted to move to Boston.
I still want to move to Boston.
But Colorado. We're focused on Colorado.
I was just kind of like walking through, like, so we did that. And then we touched on like going to Phoenix, Arizona, which was a hell of a lot of fun. Like if we'd gotten to do more of the outdoorsy stuff in Phoenix, I think I would have loved it even more. I don't think I'd ever move there either.
It was beautiful though.
And then as far as like vacations we've taken with the kids, like we've gone to Gatlinburg twice. We've gone to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I guess cool spots to take kids, but yeah, I'm good.
Nowhere I'd really move.
It's nowhere I'd really vacation again.
I honestly thought I would want to move to Colorado after we went there on our trip, and I was surprised that, you know, I felt fondly about it and we had a great time and I was fine with going back home and leaving the swollen feet behind. And
it was one of those places where like I didn't find myself like just like pining to like be there, but it made me appreciate home more.
But at the same time, those views were,
it was beautiful.
unlike
I'm not
anything I'd
knocking
seen.
Colorado or Denver
No.
at all. It was a beautiful place. I can't wait to go back again. There's other, like, I want to see more of like the southwest part of Colorado, Ouray, Telluride, some of Silverton, some of those places. I do want to see more of Colorado and what it has to offer. It was so beautiful and we had so much fun. So it's no knock on Colorado. I think that I don't know. It just made me appreciate home so much.
Yeah. I really missed the kids.
A lot
during that trip.
And I feel like more so on this trip than we did on our honeymoon, which, I mean, at the time, like, they were so small. I mean, I did miss them a lot, but I don't know, like, I found myself like wishing that they were with us a lot on this trip.
Yeah.
Whereas in Boston, I didn't really like get that at a lot of places, like a lot of the things that we did.
Well, we were honeymooning. That makes sense. But this time we were like, we had looked forward to this trip for so long. And then in the end, I really missed the kids and I was really excited to come home. But I want to stop leaving them hanging and get into some of our adventures that we had. We kind of broke up the trip into two halves where the first half of the trip was going to be more of our outdoorsy,
really just moving around from place to place.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily outdoors, but just like kind of being a little more like on the move as opposed to like the second half, which was stationary in Denver for the most part.
Yeah.
For night one, we were staying in Manitou Springs, which was highly recommended to us. It was a cool little town. We got some good coffee there when we first got in. And actually, I don't think that you actually drank your coffee because you were working slightly.
Yeah, I was technically working that day. So I was trying to tie up a few loose ends. But yeah, we went to, Manitou Springs, which was a really, charming little quaint town. And it was filled with natural springs.
So that's the thing that they're really known for. There are 7 natural springs surrounding the city that you can kind of just take your water bottle and fill it up with and taste the different flavors. Like each one has its own unique properties and minerals associated with it, so they all taste differently.
I was shocked when I drank from the spring.
Sweet. It tastes like kind of flat sparkling water with a little bit of a sweet taste.
Yeah, I was gonna say it almost had a carbonated and just like a flavor. I was shocked. I was like, what is this? I've apparently never had natural spring water until that moment. And it was kind of crazy. I was expecting it because like all the videos we had watched of people doing it, they kind of like would make a face and like, ew, like Were you picturing well water?
I had well water as a kid, so
it wasn't like
it was not at all. So I actually really enjoyed it to the point where like I was like, oh, this is great. Filled my water bottle up, and we took that water up to Pikes Peak, which is one of the 14ers in the area. For those of you who are unfamiliar, 14er means it is 14,000 feet high. So it's
above sea level.
So it's one of the higher peak mountains in the area. So we went up Pikes Peak, drove up there, and it was so beautiful. Like that was our first kind of just like, our first experience kind of just really seeing the views and like just how different like the nature and everything looks. So that was really, really cool. Just driving up there. We get to the top and we saw our first wildlife. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a science lesson here. The higher up in elevation you go, there are different animals that can't habitate those areas because their food source is cut short. Whether that be vegetation that doesn't grow that high of altitude, or if it's because there's an animal that doesn't have a food source there, so the predators can't, like they lose their food source too. So up on top of Pikes Peak, there's only one animal that can actually survive, and this little thing called a marmot. I'd never heard of a marmot prior to this trip.
Yeah, I had never heard of one either. And the first time we saw one, I was like, oh, it looks like a little groundhog or something.
It's just popping its head up. I was like, oh, 6 more weeks of winter.
They were everywhere. And that's where the altitude sickness started for me.
Oh, up on Pikes Peak?
Yeah, getting out of the, car at the top of Pikes Peak. I got out and was like very unsteady, very nauseous, just trying to hold it together. Half of my brain's like, this is so fun. And then the other part was like, I feel horrible. So yeah, that was a rough kind of, first little bit
it was
didn't seem to affect you that bad, strangely.
No, oddly, like, so, I mean, obviously, like, I was breathing heavier. So I'm asthmatic. You might hear me wheezing into the mic once in a while. But yeah, really, for the most part, it wasn't. I never really got altitude sickness the entire time we were there, so I was kind of surprised by that. Obviously, again, like, I was
I mean,
having a
I'm
little
glad
more.
you didn't, but I'm like, man, why is it always me?
But yeah, we got up to Pikes Peak, and we got to take in all of the views. There was so much to see from up there, like just kind of seeing like the other, like being kind of like above all the other mountain peaks in the area, being able to look down into some of like the valleys between the mountains, being able to, see like the entire like flat area of eastern Colorado. You could see out to Denver, like you could see that far. You could see these little like mountain like lakes, these lakes between mountains. Like you see a lot of that from up there. And it was just really cool, like on day one, to be able to like just go up somewhere where we could really take in those views.
See everything.
Yeah. We got some high altitude donuts that apparently, if you take them off the mountain, they crumble.
Supposedly they crumble, but I don't know
Something
if that's
in the way
just...
it's something in the dough. I don't know exactly like what causes that. We did not buy extra to take it down. We scarfed them down. It was...
Yeah, we didn't test the
Pretty
theory.
pretty good.
Yeah, they were good. I was scarfing those down to try and get over my altitude nausea. So that was really fun. But no, yeah, it was a great first day, kind of jumping in to all the views of Colorado, a lot of the views that, I've never seen in person. So it was just crazy to be up there with you. We had a lot of, nice people taking our picture. So that was fun.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. I think we might need to backtrack just a little bit to our travel experience though. I do want to note, so our flight, we had to leave for our flight. We woke up at like 3:45, I think is when we set our alarm for. We got about 2 hours of sleep that night. And then, obviously like, the travel and everything, like it was a long day and we were on the move for several hours. And like, it was probably about 15 hours or so before we were actually able to kind of like check into our hotel and just like unwind for a moment. So we did get back to our hotel after Pikes Peak and we kind of crashed for a good solid hour.
No,
I did.
You crashed.
You worked more, didn't you?
Yeah, I technically did not take that Friday off that we traveled. So and I work remotely, so I can work from anywhere. So I was just trying to, tie up any last minute projects for my coworkers before we were going to be MIA for the week. So I, was exhausted, just, laid in bed and worked. And as soon as I was done and went to close my eyes, Justin's eyes pop open. He's ready for the night.
I'm a little obnoxious in that way on vacations too. We'll get a little bit more into that as we go. But yeah, we kind of like, got unwound for a minute, just kind of trying to recover slightly from just the travel and everything. So we could at least go out on night one and grab a dinner. I don't think we had the energy to do much more than that, especially as we were planning for a long day the following day. We just grabbed there was a Mexican place in Manitou Springs that was highly rated that we went to, and it was good. I will say though, I was not expecting the kick from those margaritas being at that high altitude, and it like
I was going to say, I think that's really the only way that you got affected by the altitude was you could have one drink and you were just done.
I wasn't done, but I was
that
feeling
first night
like
you were.
I had like a top shelf margarita, like a nice margarita, and it was a pretty big one too. And I was just, woo. I was feeling it after that to the point where like that one drink, like I was feeling hungover before I even fell asleep for the night. Like it was.
I think that was the travel exhaustion
probably a little bit of
catching
that,
up to you.
That was the first alcoholic beverage that we had on our trip, and I was like, man, we're in for a week. If like I'm feeling that strong, like bring on the rest of it. So fast forward to day number 2, and what was the big bucket list item that we crossed off that week, Kandace? Oh, she's like really antsy over here. She's like, shut up so I can just say it. I'm not gonna. Oh.
I waited for this for so long. I really wanted to go to the Colorado Renaissance Festival for years. We are avid Renaissance Festival goers here back home.
The Ohio one. Yeah.
The Ohio Renaissance Festival here back home.
We're dipping our toes into some other ones now.
It's the Ohio Renaissance Festival is only about 15 minutes from where we live. So we are
And it's
there,
one of the largest in the country too.
and it's amazing. I love
our festival.
It's hard to beat, but the Colorado Festival has always been kind of on my fair bucket list just because, I follow different pages, different social media pages of different fairs. And that one has always stuck out to me, mostly because of the scenery. It's surrounded by mountains, beautiful trees. Just the location looks amazing. And it's a huge fair too. And it did not disappoint.
Yeah, I was going to say, what were your first impressions walking in?
I was blown away. It was a humongous fair. And as soon as we walked in, just the energy was so high, and there were so many different acts there that it was so fun to watch because we get used to all of the ones that we have back home. So it was really interesting to see like a whole new group of performers and artists there.
With a couple of familiar faces.
There was a couple familiar faces, and I even noticed a few, people just from our home fair.
There were a few people that I don't know them, but people who like their faces I recognized who are fair goers back here in Ohio. So there must have been a few of us getting around.
There was a few, yeah.
If you're listening to this for whatever reason,
if you were there,
hit us up.
Yeah, let us know. It was the Celtic weekend at the Colorado Festival, so that was exciting too because that's one of my favorite themed weekends. So it was great that it kind of happened that, it lined up that we were there on that weekend, but it was amazing. We spent like the first half just walking around, seeing all of the amazing artists and the different shops. And
the merchants. Like, I think that was
great.
Other than the scenery of the Colorado Renaissance Festival, my favorite thing was just like how like just the variety of merchandise that you could get. That I'm not used to seeing back home. Like, and I don't know if it's just because like I've gone to our fair for so long now and I see a lot of the same things year after year, if I'm just a little jaded on that. But there were so many more options and so many cool, unique things that like I just don't see at our home fair that I would love to see more of at our home fair.
We spent so much time trying to figure out if we could fit things into our carry-on or our checked bag. We're like, can we fit this? Can
we mail this? Do you have an online shop? Can we get a card? A lot of these conversations several times. Yeah. And there's a few things that I feel like I'm going to be reaching back out to these people trying to purchase. There was what was it called? A yard?
Yard. It was a yard, just a giant like drinking
so we love
canteen.
Getting these we love getting like mugs and
cool mugs.
Our Renaissance Festival every year has these like really cool just kind of like pottery, like ceramic mugs, like commemorative mugs that they do each year. There was a place that had similar mugs, but they were these big giant ones that they called a yard,
and they were corked.
It was so cool, and it had like a strap you could throw over your shoulder. Like, I want one of these.
We spent so much time
figuring out. I don't know how many beers I would
home?
have to purchase to fill this thing up, but I'm willing to find out.
It would keep you going for the whole day.
I wouldn't have to stand in line 3 times. I could just stand in line once and, 20 minutes later be drinking like really warm beer, but I would have it the rest of the day.
You'd have it. But yeah, it was just great. The talent there was great. And we even got to see a few familiar acts like the Kamikaze Fireflies. They're one of our favorites that regularly perform at the Ohio Renaissance Festival.
Or on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, on America's Got. We're big fans of them, but they do their rotation at the Colorado Fair as well. And it was amazing, just seeing
Casey
people
and Rob and
that you semi-know just in a completely different part of the country.
Entirely. And there are some bits of their act that, it's the same, and then some things that are catered to that local audience. And it was just kind of cool seeing those differences. So yeah, I really love getting to see that. And I'm spacing the name of them, but there was one act that we ended up seeing twice. We really enjoyed them. It was a Celtic band.
They were great. It was like 5 or 6.
Oh, there was like 6 or 7 people. They had
4 or 5.
They
5
had
or
like
6.
3 guitarists, 1 bassist, 2 bagpipists, 2 drummers. I don't know. It was.
put on a great show.
They were really funny.
Yeah.
They were doing some like, like just more like Celtic fare and like classics and
Just
like
the
as well as
tunes,
like some like cover stuff too, like modern covers. Like it was a lot of blast. And like, so we actually listened to them twice, and like they even had a variety in that second show. It wasn't the same show twice. So
yeah, they were a great actor.
I don't know if this is spoiling anything. I don't think it is, but like their bagpipist, they had this like gas. Was it gas powered? I don't know exactly like what it was. It shot fire out of the bagpipes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. Like they had this like contraption attached to it that I could see like it would kind of just spray out and ignite. Like, I don't know, it was pretty cool.
They had gas.
They had gas.
But yeah,
I had gas.
It did not
that was
disappoint.
The one altitude thing that I experienced was my tummy was like gurgle.
Yeah, that day did not disappoint. My feet were hurting by the end. We walked around for hours.
Spent way too much
money.
And food.
It was it was perfect. I was so happy.
The weirdest thing. So 6 years? Have I been going to the Renaissance Festival for 6, or is it 7 years now?
I'm not sure. I just know that I had the pleasure of taking you for your very first time, which was awesome.
I remember like Margot was a baby and she's about to turn 8. So I feel like this is year 7. This will be year 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been going to the Renaissance Festival for 7 years now. Colorado Renaissance Festival was my first time having the giant turkey leg.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and so it's one of those things. It's like a staple of like fair food. Like you see people walking around with these giant, and it's not even turkey. Is it ostrich?
So I've been told that they're actually emu legs, but I don't know if that was a joke. Someone could have been fucking with me.
We might not ever know. It could just be like giant hormone infested turkeys for all I know. Like it's But they have these giant turkey legs though, and it's very much like, I feel like it's somewhat period to that time of just like having bland,
it's like a giant piece of meat,
big old meat on a stick. It's not even a stick; it's a bone.
Just a bone.
It was my first time having one of those, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed.
But like you said, it's supposed to be kind of just a bland piece of meat on a bone.
Yeah, I was really disappointed because like they had these like really delicious looking sausages at the stall that we went to, and we got up there and Kandace got the last one, and I was like, no, I guess I'll get my first turkey leg, and I ate the turkey leg, and I just wasn't feeling it. We had some random strangers asking us like, how you liking that turkey leg? And I was like,
you're like,
it's all right.
And I feel like that kind of put them down. Like, oh,
no, it wasn't that put them down. What put them down was like they were, I don't know, we talked to them for a few minutes and then they ended up offering me a shot. I think they had like some like whiskey but my mama taught me not to take strange drinks from people.
Yeah, stranger danger. I'm not going to take your mystery juice.
My mama didn't actually teach me that, but I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, use your common sense. Don't take drinks from strangers. Don't take random drinks
from strangers.
I mean, we were no offense to people in Colorado, but like, I mean,
I'm not trying to get.
I see your recreational drug use. I'm for some of it not so much.
I see your recreational drug use. That sounded so stiff.
It might be a little stiff. But like, I'm at this festival. I've already had several beers. Like I said no thank you. Like I was polite about it, but like that seemed to piss them off. They did not talk to us again after that. They kind of just like gave us the cold shoulder.
Well, it's because they wanted to wear your skin.
I politely turned down their shot of it probably wasn't even good whiskey. I feel like it was like Fireball or something. But no thank you. I like to if I can't see the person that's pouring my drink, I like to pour my own. Not that I've ever been roofied or anything, but I'm just not having it. So if you ever get a chance, check out the Colorado Renaissance Festival. If you're in Ohio, check out the Ohio Renaissance Festival. Or
come hang out with us.
Support your local fair.
Yeah.
Wherever you are. There's one near you. So
Maybe.
Yeah. So after like, we were already exhausted from day one of traveling and just all the things we did on day one. We woke up super early to go to Renaissance Festival. We drank and ate a lot. And, by this point, we've had a long day and it's only like 4 or 5 p.m. We didn't even stay until close.
Yeah, because we had kind of a drive to make.
Yeah. So after we left Renaissance Festival, we had to make it all the way up to, is it Estes Park or Estes Park? I've heard it 2 different ways. I was saying Estes Park.
Estes Park.
But then when we got up there, I feel like I was hearing people very, very just kind of matter of fact, being like Estes Park. And I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce this. I don't really care. I was going to keep calling it Estes Park because I'm American. And
I'm going to say Estes Park.
Estes Park.
Yeah.
But anyway.
You're American. What does that mean?
I don't know. Is Estes, is that Spanish en route? I don't know.
I don't know. I just know that I grew up with a kid with the last name Estes, and that's how he said it. So I'm just going to say it.
That's probably good logic.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, but we had about a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, it was about 3 hours.
3-hour drive up to Estes Park from where we were at the Colorado Renaissance Festival. And for the most part, I mean, it was kind of a so-and-so drive. So like driving up toward Denver, we got to pass like Castle Rock, that's pretty cool. Like we're starting to see some of the inspiration for like Stephen King works like through Colorado. There's a lot of them. He loves Colorado. We'll get into that more a little bit here. Well, very soon, actually. But then, we kind of got a little bit of a teaser driving past downtown Denver for what the second half of our trip was going to have in store for it. We drove through Boulder, which was another area we were going to be visiting. So we were kind of just driving through all these areas that we were going to be spending more time later on to get to Estes Park. And it got flat for a little while. We got out of the mountains, but then once we get back into the mountains heading into Estes Park, it's just so beautiful. You follow this little creek on this like winding road going in and out of these like mountains and everything.
That was one of my favorite locations of our whole trip.
It was. And then like you kind of like just come down on this this decline like into the actual town itself, and you just see like Lake Estes, like this big lake and all the mountains in the distance and this cool little town. And it was really, really something like coming into that.
And in that town,
the Stanley Hotel, which for those of you familiar with Stephen King's work, that is the hotel in which The Shining is based. Spacing what is the name of the hotel? It's the Outlook Hotel, correct? Is that what he calls it in The Shining?
I can't remember, but I know they didn't actually film The Shining in that hotel.
Film Stanley Kubrick's The Shining in that hotel.
But they filmed
Stephen King's made-for-TV adaptation of it in the 90s was filmed at the hotel. Yeah. But it is the hotel that Stephen King was staying at when he wrote The Shining. It was the inspiration for The Shining. We'll get into that a little bit more later on. But so Stephen King. So that was
a cool view, just driving through Estes Park.
You see this area. Like this big old hotel, like up basically up on this hill, like towering over the town. You see the mountains in the background. It was such a cool location. And we spent a few days there. And I think that was like overall like one of my favorite like places to be the entire time we were there, for sure. But yeah, we had this nice little like kind of like duplex cabin, like right at the like basically at the foothills of the national park. So we were kind of like right up on that. Had beautiful views.
It was really just a place to lay our head because
we didn't really spend much time there at all.
We were so active in those couple of days that we were there. We barely, were back at the Airbnb, but yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite parts of the trip as well.
We had a little bit of a snafu, I guess you'd say, when we got to the Airbnb. We walk in and we notice that there's somebody's backpack is sitting in the living room, and then
just like a bunch of luggage everywhere.
Well, there was a backpack in the living room. Then we progress to the bedroom. There's a full suitcase and like
there's like iPads in the suitcase, like everything.
I was like, what the hell is happening here? Did they overbook us? Did we get into the wrong place? Turns out we weren't in the wrong place. What ended up, we got it figured out pretty quickly. But what had happened was the people that stayed, it was a duplex cabin. There was a left and right side. We were on the right side. The person on the left side got there a little bit before us, and they were trying to get in on our side, and I guess messaged the Airbnb host like, "Hey, I can't get into the place using the code that you gave me." And they were like, "Well, which side are you on?" He said, "I'm on the right side." And I think that they just they assumed they were us, so they let them in and they put their stuff in. We got it all sorted out. It was just one of the weirdest Airbnb experiences I've had.
Yeah, that was really weird.
They got it. I mean, no, that's no knock on like it was. They were great hosts. They were quick to respond. Like they were very apologetic, and I mean it happens.
I was like, this is a mini review that you're leaving for.
I was just worried that like somebody was going to come in at like 4 a.m. and like try to like sleep on us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was worried for a minute that we wouldn't have a place to go, and especially like traveling and then being that exhausted, you're like,
Oh yeah,
really?
I needed to put my stuff down. I needed to like sit down for a second, and then I was very hungry by this point, so I wanted to go out and get some dinner.
Yeah,
we got it sorted out, and then we got refreshed, and then we headed into the town to actually kind of just walk around and experience everything and find some dinner. We ended up stopping at some pizza place in town. Like that was the one thing about like Estes Park is like there wasn't a lot of like really cool food options like for like dinner. A lot of things closed early, and by this point it was after 8, so we just found a pizza place to go to, and the pizza was fine, but we had probably one of the most awkward experiences in a restaurant that I've had in a while in this pizza place.
Yeah, we were just kind of sitting next to this miserable couple, and we couldn't help but overhear their whole conversation, and
they were very miserable looking. Like you see them like kind of just they're avoiding eye contact from across the table at each other, like not looking at each other at all. They're not talking most of this dinner, with the exception of the husband, who's just basically narrating anything and everything, like just kind of like his thoughts out loud, and the wife is just giving him these dirty looks the entire time.
I almost felt like it was like a mini episode of like Larry David.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, yeah. Just like really awkward, like guy narrating everything.
Yeah, I don't get quite that vibe from it. I mean, there's a charm to Larry David.
He does have a charm.
This guy did not have that.
I was just hoping that wasn't going to be us in like however many years.
It could be. I mean, we have some quiet dinners sometimes. But no, it was just awkward because he was talking about like, oh yeah, I talked to a telemarketer the other day. He was talking about like just the weirdest things, and like the wife was just not paying any attention.
It really
at all.
brought the mood of the dinner down.
Yeah, especially as they started like getting into a fight. Like this evolved into like they were arguing over which road they saw a raccoon on or something. I don't remember exactly what it was.
It was a beaver.
Oh, a beaver. They saw a beaver on a road somewhere, and they were arguing over which road it was. And like this was like turning into a full-fledged like fight.
Full-on fight.
So the wife got up to go to the bathroom at some point, and we had just finished eating, and I was like, all right, let's get our check. Let's get the hell out of here while we have like a brief moment of solace.
That became an ongoing joke the rest of the trip. Just us fake arguing about the beaver.
Was that beaver on? Except a little more pleasant than it just really brought down the mood. Like this was the first like
we're trying to have a fun, dinner out together, but that's
keep in mind, we're squeezing like years and years worth of date nights into this trip.
Yeah,
so like every meal is
thing.
like, it's, it's a date night, and it's really bringing the mood down.
Yeah. It may seem like a casual meal to everyone else, but we're trying to fit in all of these missed date nights.
At
like
this random crappy pizza shack in Estes Park because we got to dinner way too late. But
so we were, exhausted. We had some pizza. I believe we took a really long, nice stroll that evening.
Yeah, so we walked from like the main town area back to Lake Estes, which was a little bit of a trek just to get to the lake. Yeah. But we walked over like most of that trail. We saw our first elk.
We saw some elk.
There was some. Apparently there's a kind of a little like protected habitat area there where they allow like female elk to breed to have their babies and everything, and we did manage to see a mom and a baby while we were there.
I was so like unnecessarily worried the whole time that this like male elk was gonna come charging like out of the side
at me. Mama elk protecting her baby. But yeah, it was. I mean, so we took a nice like long like just walk around this lake. We were probably like walked way too far. It got dark really fast. There was no lights or anything around this lake at all. Like there was a nice paved trail, but we didn't really know where we were. It was a treat to kind of just be in. I think that it's technically a low light pollution area. Like they do what they can to kind of keep that light pollution down, and like we could see stars pretty well. More so by the time we got back to our Airbnb and looked up, like to the point where like I was wanting to like climb up on the roof and just kind of like watch stars. Candace was not feeling it.
I feel like you don't have like a lot of like physical empathy. Like you forget like when other people like are ailing or like not feeling great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like just ready to go. So like, I'm like,
you're
let's
just
go.
like on 100, and I'm still, kind of suffering from just like all the different symptoms that you could possibly be suffering
which
from.
are stacking up at this point.
Yeah, they're all just stacking up on top of the exhaustion. So, I'm giving it my all, but by the end of the night, I'm ready to crash to try and have a chance the next day at having fun. And he's just, he wants to climb on the roof.
I want to like listen
look
to
at the
some
stars
music,
and
watch the stars.
I felt a little bit bad, but I'm like, dude, if you want me to be awake tomorrow or, able to get out of bed, I got to get some sleep. But we went hard that day, though, to be fair. We did a lot.
We went pretty hard the next day, too.
Yeah.
And to Candace's point, she talked about like really needing her sleep and everything. Day 3, I wake up at 5:30.
Dude, no, it was before that. I was pissed.
I have in my notes here, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. But she
I was
apparently
a little
says
bit before that. But he does this thing where he wakes up and he doesn't just wake up. Like, he can't just lay there and maybe like look at the ceiling or quietly scroll his phone or something like that. He'll just lay there and then dramatically roll onto his side, then roll onto his other side, and then and so I'm awake the first time, and then I try and doze back, but every time he's like rolling dramatically, I'm just awake again. And I'm just like, what is the hurry, dude?
I was ready to go.
He's like ready to go at 5:30, and
well, that's the thing is like 5:30. So the sun rises pretty damn early there because of like the direct view of the sun that you get on the east like horizon.
Right. But I had been given no heads up that this man wanted to see the sunrise. I thought that we were going to be just waking up and then going to do our thing whenever. And I'm just like, dude, go see the sunrise.
I mean, I watched it through the window.
Know.
I watched it through the bedroom window because I couldn't get you up with my heavy sighing and tossing and turning.
So annoying. He's like, if you haven't had your coffee, like, cannot be around you in the morning.
And the thing is, I don't want you to think that this is me every day. This is not what I'm like at home. On a trip, though, like, I very much am one of those people. I have to squeeze every moment out of it.
But at the same time, like, if you're not doing some sort of like self-reflection or like taking a run or something, which I understand, what are we going to be doing at 5:30 in the morning?
Watching the sunrise.
I mean,
over this beautiful mountain town.
No.
It was gorgeous.
If you have to give me like a 3 to 5 business day warning.
You have to consider also, in comparison to the previous 2 nights, we slept quite a bit that night. So like I was like well rested and ready to go. Like I was excited to get up into the mountains, like into Rocky Mountain National Park this day. We had so many cool things planned like coming up. I was like on a
listener, when he says that he had a hard time waking me up, I literally woke up at 7 o'clock. That's all I was asking for. He tries to wake me up at 5:30.
That was a long hour and a half of waiting.
And he had this wonderful sleep while, I'm still like recovering from altitude sickness. I somehow like kinked up my whole entire
that's what
back
you get
and neck
for
on
laying
your
head on me and like just sit up like a normal human.
That was kind of the joke, is I completely like pinched a nerve in my back on this trip, and it wasn't even from being active or like hiking. It was on the plane ride over to Colorado that I did this.
Not on the way home, on the way there.
On the way there.
She got to deal with this for the entire trip.
I actually am still dealing with it. I can't, if you ever had like a pinched nerve like in your neck or back, I can't like turn my neck. I have to turn my full body to turn around. So yeah, so I was just a hot mess, but this day was one of my favorite days when I did finally wake up.
Rocky Mountain National Park is one of the most visited parks in the country. So they do have a reservation system that they started up during COVID that they actually, I think, has worked out for them. So they've kind of kept it going. So we did have time to go into town that morning and kind of just look at some shops a little bit and get coffee and breakfast. We went to a place called, I think it was Kind Coffee, and their coffee was pretty good. I will say what I really enjoyed, though, this was my, and I'm disappointed as a millennial, this was my first time having avocado toast, and it was delicious. It had avocado, it had bacon, it had like this big like Texas toast size like piece of bread, and I was all about it.
And I'm realizing the more that we're reflecting, I'm literally like some type of a caricature in like some show where I'm like the kid at recess with like the inhaler and the glasses and like all the like horrible things happening to him. I'd said all these like ailments I was dealing with, and then we eat this delicious avocado toast together right in front of this like beautiful like rippling stream. We're on a beautiful park bench. It was so scenic and wonderful. I ate this avocado toast and I had a allergic reaction and it swelled up my lips. So on top of everything,
So
I got these swollen
Kandace,
lips.
Yeah, she's allergic to most fresh fruit and avocado.
I didn't really realize we don't do avocado a whole lot.
And when we do, it's usually in like a guacamole.
It's usually
or
very
not
like
super fresh.
Not super fresh. Yeah. So this avocado is, apparently very fresh, and it swelled my lips up and it looked like I had like lip injections and my lips were really fat and like tight. So I was dealing with that the whole day as well.
It was, I felt bad, but at the same time, it was just so good. It was hard for me to like, feel too bad.
Yeah.
I was like, you got to eat that. So you're good.
Yeah. He doesn't feel too bad about anything.
But there were, we did check out some of the shops and stuff in town after that too, before we headed into the mountains. There were some pretty cool ones. There was a place that had a lot of just like writing and like pen materials and stuff. And like, I was like really wanting to buy some notebooks, but I came to the realization that I think I might be a journal or / notebook collector. And half of them I never use, or half of them I'll write like in like 2 or 3 pages, and then they end up in the glove box of Kandace's van for 3 years. And
I didn't know why I thought you were going to say that you're a journal whore.
I'm a journal whore. No, but I do I have a lot of notebooks and journals because I'm always taking notes. The problem is I never fill one up. I like move on to the next one. So I just have a lot of them sitting around our house, like in just random.
Yeah, we all love a good journal.
But yeah, like there were some pretty cool shops in town. Finally, we got into Rocky Mountain National Park. And oh my God. So going up to Pikes Peak was one thing, but getting up into the national park was a completely different experience. Just because like there was like no sign of civilization, like other than like the cars and stuff like that were like passing through like the main like trails and everything. Like there weren't any towns, there were no buildings or anything really, like aside from like the odd like visitor center. So you're just seeing all of these mountains in like all of their majesty, and like it was so cool.
The Purple Mountain Majesty? Isn't that the...
No, so Pikes Peak. Pikes Peak was...
Oh, Pikes Peak.
That is America's mountain. The mountain that the America the Beautiful...
was written.
It was written about.
Or inspired by.
That was Pikes Peak. That was the first place that we went. This is Rocky Mountain National Park, though. Interestingly, there are no peaks around where the part that we were. I believe Long's Peak is a 14er in Rocky Mountain National Park, but it still felt so different from Pikes Peak. Just because, like, I mean, there was more snow and ice, I noticed.
Yeah, so keep in mind, back on the normal ground, it was like 99 degrees and sunny, and I didn't think to take any like hoodie or jacket or coat. Yeah, we just get up there, and even though that the temperature was only technically like in the 50s, that wind up there was cold. So cold
and strong.
So cold. And it was like ice raining too for a little bit. So we had to quickly stop somewhere. There was like a big visitor center like at the top, and get some emergency
we got some emergency like tourist hoodies.
Oh yeah.
And sweaters.
I've never felt more like a Midwestern mom in my life than I did that
walking
day.
Around in the Rocky Mountain National Park wearing our Rocky Mountain National Park sweaters.
It was fantastic.
But I felt much warmer after that, for sure.
Yeah. And that's the day we tried to podcast while we were up there.
It was a mess.
Yeah. And we were distracted by all the little marmots that we were talking about.
There were
the little
some marmots popping up. There were some foreign drivers not really understanding how a pullover or lookout works, and kind of just stopping in the middle of the road and then getting out, and cars were honking at them. That was the point where we were like, all right, I think we're done with this.
Yeah, we're like, all right, we're done.
So we did the main like Trail Ridge Road, which goes through from the east entrance all the way to the west entrance where like Grand Lake and all of that is. It is also, I believe, the highest continuously paved road in the United States at one point. So that was kind of cool to like drive over that, just like take in all the scenery. We stopped at some of the trailheads and kind of just got out and, like hiked, quote unquote.
Yeah. We did a few little hikes off of the main paths that were
it was just
really nice.
So cold and windy and so hard to breathe. I know we did technically do the, and I'm spacing the name of it. I think it was the Alpine Ridge Trail. We did a little bit of like the beginning of that, and that was enough for me. And then we did keep pushing past toward the west corridor a little bit more to the Continental Divide. We really wanted to do a like a mountaintop lake area. So I think it was called like Padre Lake or something like that. But it was where the Continental Divide is. And if you don't know what the Continental Divide is, essentially, that is the point in our country where all of the water, either flows east or west, toward the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean from that point. So the Rocky Mountains, houses the Continental Divide where all of that water goes either one way or the other. So that was kind of pretty cool to kind of like be at one of the lakes, like right there at the Continental Divide. All that water is going one way or the other.
Yeah. And I think that was the best part for me up there, because that's where we kind of pulled off and did a lot of walking and little hikes outside of just driving along the path in the
actually
car.
Got out and stretched our legs a little bit
we
more.
actually got to go into the woods and climb up and look off some cliffs and
do some stupid things.
And we were just being dumb and silly together. So that was a fun day.
Like
we just
nice
got to have
big outdoor
fun
playground for us.
Yeah, it was great.
We got off the trail just a little bit and probably explored where we probably weren't meant to, but it was fun.
Yeah, I think we went off trail a little bit, but
off-roading.
It's all part of the fun. I tried to make a really lame Outlander TikTok where I was going through the stones. If you're an Outlander fan, you'll know what I mean. If you're not,
I'm sure your wife or somebody knows what she means. But yeah, it was just really cool being up in the mountains. I would definitely visit again. I think that there's other national parks that are a part of the Rocky Mountain that just range that Kandace hasn't been to, a few that I haven't been to. I would like to see more of going forward. And I think our next mountain trip is definitely going to be something with the kids. I think that
100%.
I want them to experience that.
They would love that. And this whole time that we were doing all of these things, I was just picturing them with us and wishing they were there. So although it was nice to get away together, I really want to experience all of these, travel times with the kids. I think it'd be great. Yeah,
it would be. And I would probably be one of those annoying parents, like following them around with the air canister, like, here, take some oxygen, and like puffing it into their face. We saw a few of those.
There were a few of those parents, giving their kids oxygen for one reason or another, but I probably needed some. You probably should have done that to me.
Probably. I'll make sure I keep that in mind for the next time we go up into the mountains.
Yeah.
So yeah, we it was pretty cool. We did see a little bit of elk up in the mountains. Aside from like that just small gathering of elk in the marmot, we did see the one marmot in the Rocky Mountain National Park. We didn't really see a lot of wildlife. So
that surprised me a little bit. I thought there was going to be a lot more wildlife.
For sure. I mean, I've been to Yellowstone, and like almost immediately driving in, I saw bison. Like they were everywhere.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised that we didn't really like see anything. And then we kind of just, we took an alternate route kind of back into the Estes Park area. From what we had originally intended, and I'm glad we did, because we ended up as we were like coming through like one area, we look up to the left and there's this bighorn sheep, like a big ram, just off standing on this rock looking at us. So we stopped the car.
Beautiful.
He was so beautiful. We stopped the car, we rolled down the window, and we kind of just had a staring contest with this bighorn sheep. And
he was
wasn't
amazing.
moving. He wasn't budging at all. Like we stared at him for a good while.
I've never seen one in person.
Nope.
So that was just kind of fun to see, especially, going through the whole day, like hardly not seeing any wildlife at all. And seeing this majestic creature, I was like, oh, be my Patronus. He was amazing.
And then we went back and got kind of refreshed because the last thing we had on our docket for the day was,
The
drumroll,
Stanley Hotel.
a haunted tour of the Stanley Hotel and the grounds.
And let me tell you, it's haunted. Spoiler alert.
The jury's still out on that.
They really encouraged people
Take
to have
photos,
their phones out
take
and
videos,
take a lot of
just in case
photos
you
and
catch
video.
something. And I think some people they like to see what they want to see.
Yeah,
and
100%.
they really push hard for this is what I'm seeing here. And I
Yeah.
think that might be a little bit of what Kandace is doing.
I don't know. I'm a skeptic, but just to humor our tour guide, and just to have fun. I'd like to have fun with it. I took a lot of photo and video on this tour, mostly to go back and just remember and look at.
So I am a non-believer. Very skeptical. But that's the thing, is like I love like all things paranormal. Like I don't
I'm the
believe
same
it,
way.
and I'm very skeptical of like everyone else's evidence, but I'm still so obsessed with it at the same time. And like I think paranormal like movies, like horror films, like they tend to like really freak me out and get to me too, which is weird because I'm like, I don't even believe in this. So
I know. Yeah, I'm a huge skeptic too, but it's just fun to. It's like playing dress up. You know that it's not real and you're just having a good time. Like the Renaissance Festival.
Exactly. So
we just like to have fun.
We're not gonna retell any of the stories from the tour or anything, or like, because
we'll let those stay organic. And
if you're interested and you're ever in Colorado, go check it out and do the tour. It was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. But yeah, like basically they had just a tour guide kind of take us in a small group around to different parts of the Stanley Hotel and some of like the outer buildings and everything. And there was one area in particular, the music hall there, that like I kind of just got weird vibes from. And like I was not expecting, because like I'm a non-believer, completely skeptical, but like that room gave me just some weird vibes, to the point where I was like second guessing and like taking second looks all over the place, and like, oh, did I just see something? And like,
so he stepped back into the music hall, and it's nighttime, so everything's very dark, and they leave it dark on purpose because it's supposed to be a spooky night tour. So everyone in our group had stepped out, and Justin kind of stepped back in, and just for fun, I took a photo of it was just him standing in there, and just as a memento to take, and snapped this photo. And later, after the tour, I'm kind of zooming in to this photo in the background, and I see some figures and some shapes in the back, and that room was empty behind him. So I still claim that we did see the ghosts that the tour guide was talking about.
I believe that she thinks she saw the founder of the hotel and his wife.
We spent an absurd amount of time after the tour
trying to find this pet cemetery that was on the grounds.
Yeah.
So the tour guide told us about this kind of like secret pet cemetery, and it wasn't really like
not
so secret. It wasn't as cool as I was expecting it to be either.
There was a lot of hype.
she also even like kind of hinted at like, oh, I believe that this pet cemetery was the inspiration for Stephen King's novel Pet Sematary. And I was like, I don't think so. Like there were some similarities like with some of the stories that like he had heard at like during his stay. So for those of you unfamiliar with like Stephen King lore, he wrote The Shining while staying at the Stanley Hotel. I think he stayed there for an entire winter, I believe. Kind of just got himself locked, snowed in on purpose, and stayed up there with like very minimal staff. So it's just kind of pretty similar to Jack's character in The Shining and how all of that plays out. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff around that. Maybe that's a special podcast episode we could do down the road. Is we could have some spooky ghost stories or something down the line. I would dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, it was definitely interesting just to hear about like the history of him writing and like his experience staying at the Stanley Hotel, and not only his experience staying at the Stanley Hotel, but Jim Carrey's experience staying at the Stanley Hotel when they were filming Dumb and Dumber.
Which is one of my favorite movies, and we just rewatched it.
Well, we had to because we were just at the Stanley. Again, I can't remember what they called. It's like the
the Danbury or something.
It's the Danbury, yes. The Danbury Hotel in Dumb and Dumber. That is actually the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado.
And I want to tell this one because you told Stephen King's story.
You're a better storyteller than me anyway.
Sure. So so Jim Carrey, as it was told to us, is they spent some time on set there at the Stanley Hotel. He actually, got put up in the room.
He insisted on it.
He insisted on being put up in the room.
Because he's a huge Stephen King fan.
Right. That, Stephen King stayed in. He didn't make it, 3 minutes in that room? It was like a very
It was either 3 minutes or 3 hours. Something with a 3.
Yeah, a very short amount of time.
After insisting on being in there, did not last.
Yeah, and ran out. And he actually, freaked out and had it written into his contract that he would not, do any more scenes after that one at that hotel
That was for the sequel. When they were talking about doing the sequel, they were like, if we go back to that hotel, I will not do this film if you film in that hotel.
So something happened to him. And apparently when, people are interviewing him about it and try and bring it up, he quickly shuts it down. So
Still
that's
to this
interesting.
Day, has not said what happened.
Yeah. So he had
room
to stay.
217, is that the presidential suite?
It is the presidential suite.
It's actually the room that they show the room in the movie in Dumb and Dumber. Like that's where him and Harry and Lloyd are staying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the room that Stephen King stayed in while he wrote The Shining. And Jim Carrey insisted on also staying in that room. And yeah, it was kind of a cool little story. The tour guide was talking about how as she was a kid and all the kids in Estes Park and everything, they would kind of after school every day, they would walk up to the Stanley Hotel to try to get a glimpse of Jim Carrey or I don't know.
And he was being his Jim Carrey self, just really humoring all the kids. And,
well, I mean, he didn't want to go into the hotel, so he was hanging out outside.
He wanted to hang outside with all the kids, and instead of being like a jerk celebrity, he was just being, silly outside with them.
Doing cartwheels.
Yeah, talking with his butt.
Oh, yeah. He was talking with his butt to all the kids in the town, and they were just, they were getting a good crack out of it. And it sounded like it was a fun time for all of those kids in there. He was avoiding going into the hotel, so he was spending his time outside playing with all the local children.
Yeah, it was a fun night walking around the grounds and just all the stories that we heard. Most of them probably bullshit, but
still fun. Either way.
Really fun. I'm still convinced I saw 2 ghostly figures behind you in the photo, so I'll have to break that out again.
We'll see.
Haunted.
Ooh. Anyway, yeah, that was another long day, and the next day was intended to be kind of an easier one, but there wasn't more travel involved because this was the day that we were going from Estes Park back to Denver. We woke up and went to Starbucks, my favorite coffee shop of the whole trip. That was a joke. And then we did kayaking for a couple of hours on Lake Estes, and that was just beautiful to be in that just this cold, refreshing lake water, surrounded by mountains. And it was kind of nice to just get out in the middle of it and kind of just, I don't know, let the tide take us where it does. And
it was nice because I still felt like the Stanley Hotel was just staring at us from across the hill.
It was.
Yeah, it was just, we had still a nice view of it out on Lake Estes. Yeah, that was great. And it was kind of a nice little ending to the first half of our trip.
But yeah, we said goodbye to the mountains, headed back toward Denver, stopped in for lunch at Boulder. And yeah, we got into Denver, we got into our Airbnb, checked out the area a little bit. There was a really, really cool little thrift store that we stopped in at close to where we were staying in downtown Denver. I think it was called Garage Sale or something like that.
Yeah, it was Garage Sale Vintage, and it was right down the street. And it was just a wild little store where they sold old, vintage clothing, but also had a margarita bar
and records. They sold vinyl. They sold all this art, local art and stuff too. And there was just so much. It was a quirky little shop, but it was a lot of fun to kind of just hang out. And we had a couple margaritas and kind of just.
And they had their vintage clothing broken up by the decades. So you could just walk around. If you were feeling 80s, you could look on the 80s rack and pull out some cool items. We didn't buy anything there, but we definitely had some margs and just kind of enjoyed the environment. So that was a nice little start. We love exploring cities. So we did a lot of walking.
Just walking around trying to figure out what we were doing. We did kind of take it a little easier that evening, and we went and saw Thor, Love and Thunder that night. And then after that, we kind of just, again, walked around.
We walked, and then we discovered, we kind of have a hard time committing to places that we're going to eat or drink on trips.
Because we're probably going to end up spending the rest of our night there, especially for drinks.
So we walk around for hours trying to decide. So then we got exhausted and just landed in this Irish pub.
The Scruffy Murphys.
Scruffy Murphys, yeah.
Or as I like to say, the Scruffy Muffin.
And well, we weren't expecting a lot out of this. We thought, we walked too long. We're exhausted. We're settling a little bit. We walk into this random pub.
The last place I wanted to go in Denver was an Irish pub.
Exactly.
Like, that's a pretty safe bet anywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to experience more of like Denver nightlife. I was too tired for that. I'm very happy that we went into the Scruffy Muffin.
We ended up having
Scruffy
the
Murphy.
best
Sorry,
night. The Scruffy Muffin. We ended up having the best night. We ended up hitting it off with the two bartenders that were there.
Shout out to Larry.
Shout out to Larry and Brenton.
They
were great. Brenton
no longer works there, so if you go back, you will not find him.
Yeah, Larry will probably be there
6 nights a week.
We, kind of closed out the bar with them that night and just had a really good time, just talking with some Denver locals. And that's what we like to do, just kind of meet new people and talk to them. And
we met some awesome people, and we had some great conversations. He told us about one of the bartenders told us about his venture into buying the domain, purchasing the domain for onlyfeet.com. So he was an interesting character.
Yeah, he buys up a lot of domains that he thinks will be useful later.
Yeah, he's gonna his plan is to resell it for a higher profit. But
yeah, so that was a fun night. So we're city bound at this point and staying in the same place the rest of the trip.
And then day 5, we meet up with our previous guest, Lauren.
Yes.
And her husband, Derek.
If you listened or watched the soap episode, the previous episode.
The one from 3 weeks ago that we haven't filmed since. But
yeah, we had Lauren Toman on, and she talked a lot about her husband, Derek, on the episode as well. And it was so fun to connect with her.
Get to see them in their environment, where they live. And
they're usually visiting us here in Cincinnati, so it was nice to go visit them for once. And we spent 2 days with them.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, and the first day, Lauren and Derek were nice enough to show us around
their
Boulder.
hood. Oh, well, I was going to say, they showed us around their hood first. We went to a place called Syrup to get breakfast. I didn't have any syrup there, though. I had some kind of
syrup
egg
either.
Omelet thingy. I don't remember. It was pretty good, but yeah, they showed us around their area, and then we headed out to Boulder. We went through downtown Boulder has kind of a little arts district there, so we went through some of the shops, some bookshops, coffee shops. We got some amazing truffles. There was a truffle shop. Oh, that was good.
I had never had truffles before, and that was just a delight.
Have you never had truffles before? Isn't that every Valentine candy box? Aren't those truffles technically?
Those are fake truffles, and also I don't get those. You've never given me those.
I believe I have. I have gotten
I'll just call you out.
I have gotten you a Valentine's gift before, I think.
A gift maybe, but not
do you want chocolates
truffle.
here?
I want those chocolates.
Okay.
If they're going to be on par with those.
They had, I'm sure there's some other truffles around, but no, I had some bourbon infused truffle, and it was so
and an orange
good.
cream, and I had a blackberry one. Oh, they were great.
There were some cool little bookshops in town. Kandace bought some tarot cards. We're gonna learn a little bit more about that. That's been kind of interesting.
Yeah, they had so many just interesting decks, and it's been something that I have wanted to try just for fun, just for funsies.
For fun.
So, we got a deck, and we've been having fun with that. We love to point out each other's
just in
bad
case
characteristics with the tarot cards.
Just in case you're curious, I don't think that I'm supposed to die anytime soon. At least the tarot cards have yet to tell me that. So.
It did tell you that you have no empathy, which is 100%
That was
true.
more your interpretation of it.
I took what I wanted from it.
I took from all of the cards that in my we've done 2 readings for me now at this point, and I feel like I need to to start seizing the day more and taking opportunities, and that was a lot of what I took away from it. We checked out Avery Brewery. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
They had some really cool designs for their design art for their cans and everything. I really liked it. There was one in particular I really wanted to get a hat with it on it, but they did not have a hat. They had a beanie I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, their logo was like a hops.
It was like a hops like going into like the flat irons.
The flats.
The flats. Yeah, so that was the next place we went to was we did check out, like being in Boulder, we checked out the flat irons, or the flats as Candace is now dubbing it. We didn't like get too far up into that. I don't think it was like so hot, and like we'd done so much hiking the last few days. I don't think we were like looking to do like too much more of that at that point. But it was kind of fun to just hop out and take some pictures of it and see like this unique rock formation, like just right outside of Boulder there. But yeah, then we got back into Denver, parted ways with Lauren and Derek for a little bit, just to kind of like rest for a while and figure out what we wanted to do for dinner.
They were so nice they took off work for 2 days to, show us around. So that was so nice of them.
Yeah, it was great to see them. And Derek, I've only met him two other times now. Their wedding last year, we went and filmed their wedding for them. And then I feel like we hung out with them one other time. They came to our house after we purchased our house. Yeah, because I cooked dinner for them. I remember that now. So yeah, it was just kind of cool. Like, I think we see Lauren a little bit more frequently than Derek, but it was nice to get to hang out with both of them together, kind of like in their area. So that was a lot of fun. And we ended up getting back together with them that night and going out and getting pizza at Blue Pan. Was that the name of the pizza place? It was like Detroit style pizza in Denver.
It was the best pizza.
It was really good.
So they had given us this recommendation,
and
they're like, hey,
we were kind of just like,
yeah, they were like, if you want some good dinner tonight, come have this pizza. It's like a pretty good place by us, So of course we go back to our Airbnb and we frantically watch like an hour of like YouTube videos on
frantically
the
scrolling
best
through Yelp
food in Denver, because we have to make every moment count while we're there. And we ended up, kind of going back to them with our tails between our legs, like, yeah, everywhere on YouTube and Yelp says that's
go to this pizza place,
the best place.
Blue Pan Pizza.
So yeah, Blue Pan Pizza was fantastic.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, it was kind of just fun to like kind of, I don't know, slow things down a little bit and just sit with them and have a meal, and it was delicious, and it was a good way to.
Yeah, I think when we got back, we had a complete food pizza coma that evening.
We tried watching, so that we actually tried watching at that point Dumb and Dumber, and we made it about halfway through to the point where Harry and Lloyd kind of go their separate ways, and spoiler alert, but we passed the fuck out.
Yeah, we absolutely passed out. That was much needed. Surprisingly, the next day, Justin did not wake me up at 5 a.m., which
I think it was finally starting to catch up with me. I was feeling it.
Yeah.
So the next morning, our plan was to meet back up with Lauren and Derek one more time. Just, checking out another neighborhood. It's the River North Arts District in Denver. They call it, the locals call it Rhino. There's a lot of breweries, art shops, and like just we checked. That's where the Patagonia store in Denver is. We went in there and I realized, I need to start spending more on more sustainable like clothing that'll last. We have the tendency to like go into like the fast fashion and buy a lot from Target, and it after a few washes it just kind of falls apart. It's awful. I'm done with that. I think I need to spend just a little bit more, get something a little nicer though.
Yeah, we walked a lot that morning, just all around Rhino, just up and down, just seeing the sights, going into random shops.
We checked out for lunch that day with Lauren and Derek, this place called Zeppelin Station, which was really cool. So think of like kind of like a mall food court, but like not that.
But
I don't even know how to describe it.
Better.
So basically, it almost felt to me like being at like a place with like several food trucks, but it's indoors.
But it's inside, yeah. And there's a big bars everywhere and
cool places to sit.
Yeah, it was something clearly made by millennials. Something clearly made by millennials who grew up loving food courts and that setting.
And now as adults like food trucks.
Yeah.
And like, like that kind of like street food style. Yeah. Like we had, we got food from a Filipino place, and that was my first time having Filipino, and oh my God, it was so good.
That was honestly, besides the blue pan pizza, I think that was my favorite meal of our whole trip.
That was my favorite meal of the whole trip.
I was just laughing because, we went somewhere, it wasn't intentional or like very fancy at all. And it ended up being my
favorite food. That
favorite
always
thing.
happens. And sometimes those like kind of just like random places like that ends up being it. So I think the lesson here is we need to stop trying to overwatch YouTube videos telling
and we
us
need
where
to go with
to
the flow a little bit. Just kind of wing it sometimes.
Doing the research does kind of point you in the right direction sometimes. So we would have been lost if we had not been with locals
it helped having locals with us. Yeah,
it did very much help.
And then they, took us around to several other breweries up and down the Rhino
We
area.
checked out a place called Our Mutual Friend Brewing. I really enjoyed that. The vibe, just kind of like walking in, they were playing Future Islands, one of my favorite bands. And like they were just like very much playing like my type of music for like most of the time that we were there. The beers were great. It's just a really nice, like kind of just casual atmosphere. So yeah, it was really cool kind of getting to check out some of these places with them that day and spending a little bit more time with them before we parted ways, because that did happen about midday.
Yeah.
Because where were we headed to?
Well, it was sad that we had to part ways, but I was only excited because we went to see our very first concert at the Red Rocks Amphitheater.
And this was one of my freaking bucket list items.
Yes.
So we got to do a Kandace bucket list item. We got to do a Justin bucket list item. Actually, I mean, to be fair, I feel like more so 2 bucket list items because Rocky Mountain National Park was on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like a big bucket list item. Going to Red Rocks has been a dream of mine for so long. And
it did not disappoint.
Couldn't have picked a better concert. So we saw the Black Keys, we saw Band of Horses, and we saw a new band, Ceramic Animal, was opening for them. It was our first time seeing them. So
not glass animals, ceramic animals.
Slightly harder.
And the vibe. We keep saying this the whole trip, the vibes.
We definitely Colorado rubbed off on us.
Yeah, no, seriously though, the vibes at that concert were unmatched.
So I've been to so many music venues. I've seen so many performances. And the thing is, I wasn't even necessarily like so like over the moon to see Black Keys. Like I like the Black Keys, but it wasn't really like the big draw for me. It was more so like just seeing them at Red Rocks.
Dude,
but
it could have been Barney and Friends performing, and
if
it would have
had been Barney and Friends,
same.
Barney and Friends would have been my favorite band after the concert. Like it was a completely like just spiritual
it was amazing
experience that converted me to being a diehard Black Keys fan now.
The acoustics were incredible.
The energy of almost 10,000 people in that amphitheater.
It was
holy
perfect.
Shit. How did we not get COVID?
And yeah, we did not get COVID. We're fine.
Knock on some wood.
The whole trip I kept walking around thinking, COVID, this is where we'll get it. No, but yeah, the concert was amazing.
It sounded so good. Like I have friends that like went to see that exact same tour in Indianapolis this past weekend, and I was seeing like videos that people had posted of that, and I was like, this is just not the same. It was not the same. Like that venue, I will use any excuse that I can to get back to this venue and see more concerts there.
And I took videos while I was there, and rewatching them just doesn't do it justice, because there was just like a vibration going on. Just you can feel everything around you that was amazing.
It was all of that quartz vibration in the ground, which is what's allowing these ghosts to haunt the Stanley Hotel. Haunted.
And are we allowed to talk about the surprise guest that was there?
I don't think that it's so much of a... I mean, I'm sure that everybody was like Instagramming it. So we did get a special guest that was not with them for any of the other dates on their tour.
Okay, I didn't want to do a spoiler for anybody.
This was a special guest.
Okay.
Nathaniel Rateliff came out during the encore and performed a song with them. And it was so awesome. It was just a nice little treat. Like we were already seeing Band of Horses, which we have been huge Band of Horses fans for years. And then we were seeing Black Keys, and like that was like a first for us, seeing the Black Keys, and then like also getting to see Nathaniel Rateliff, and like that was
not Daniel Radcliffe like our neighbor thought. We said not Harry Potter.
Nathaniel
Rateliff.
If you're not familiar, check it out. It's just it's very easy, like kind of just soulsy, like folk like I don't know how to describe
bluesy,
it.
soulsy, folksy, like all the C's.
He's just got he's got like for a big white boy, he's got some
he's got
pipes.
some soul in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
probably because of the vibrating quartz, but
I just couldn't believe all the people flooding out of the concert at the end when they're clearly going to come back out for an encore.
The headliner's going to do an encore,
And,
sometimes even the non-headliners.
Well, and here's the thing for this one, you see them setting up an additional front mic.
Yeah,
like you knew obviously something was going to happen.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if maybe they were bringing out like the lead singer from Band of Horses to do something with him since he was there.
Either way, something great was about to happen.
I did not in a million years imagine that Nathaniel Rateliff was going to be there. Like that was just like, what? Why? Yeah. So we got that as a special treat that, like people on other tour dates for the Black Keys. What is it? I can't remember the name of the album that they just released. This is the name of the tour. It's like the Dropout Boogie tour. I think it's the Dropout Boogie tour. Yeah. Like we got just that really cool experience in this like one of a kind venue, and I'm still like to this day, like I don't know, like it was just such an experience, and I can't wait to get back.
He was shooketh.
He was shooketh. So yeah, that brings us to our final day, day 7 of Denver, Colorado. And we tried to take it a little easier. I was so exhausted. Like I was falling asleep throughout the day at this point. We got breakfast at Denver Biscuit Company. Oh my gosh. They had the largest, like biggest, most freshest biscuits ever.
Giant biscuit sandwiches.
I'm a huge believer of jam on my like savory biscuits now. I'm a little sad that I didn't get like one of their specialties is like they have a couple of their biscuits. Like their breakfast sandwiches that they pour maple syrup like over like the whole thing. They just kind of like drench it. I'm a little sad that I didn't try one of those, but I'm not a huge maple syrup person. But
it did ignite my love for jam though. Like you said, now I'm just wanting to put jam on everything ever since I had that sandwich. That was delicious.
Pump up the jam.
But we had a Rockies game planned.
Yes, we did. We went to a Colorado Rockies game, and that wasn't quite a bucket list item, but it was another thing like Coors Field.
It's another stadium ticked off your list.
It's a stadium ticked off my list, but I was also telling Kandace that like I've just always wanted to go to Coors Field ever since I was a kid, just because like I had a baseball game on like the Nintendo 64, and it just looked like it was like one of the coolest looking stadiums like in that game. And I just always like in any game that I played, like I wanted to be in that stadium. So it was like just one of those things like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to like go see this. And it was a fun game. The Rockies won. Kandace fell asleep in the 8th inning. It was a struggle. Even for me at this point, we were so exhausted. We had done so much. It was really hard to kind of just, like keep the momentum going. And not to mention we had that giant biscuit breakfast on top of nachos, pretzels, beers. What else do we have?
Well, not to mention it was about 100 degrees.
Oh, it was
literally
so hot.
100, like 99 degrees outside, and we're just like sitting out there just baking all day. So yeah, I took a little 8th inning nap
after her 7th inning stretch.
And it was a really good experience though. We had a lot of fun there.
We went back to the Airbnb after this though.
I think we took another nap.
We took a legit nap this time. It was much needed. I was worried that we weren't actually. So the plan was we were actually going to go back and we were going to podcast from the Airbnb. That didn't happen. We were too tired. I was a little worried that we weren't even going to get out to do like dinner or anything on our like final night. Like we were so exhausted at this point. All I wanted to do was sleep. But we forced ourselves to, and I'm glad we did.
I'm glad we did because a lot happened.
Yeah, we walked around some of the areas that we hadn't seen yet. We found some like green space. There was a nice park by the river that goes through Denver. We walked out to that and kind of just sat and hung out in the park for a little bit. Then we went to a gastropub for dinner. And we walked from the gastropub back to the Scruffy Muffin.
Yeah, we went back to Scruffy Muffin.
The Scruffy Murphy.
We were hoping to see Larry again.
Because he says that he works there 6 nights a week, but we just happened to get there on the one night of the week that he was not there.
Sorry, Larry, we missed you. It was different bartenders. But we were excited to kind of end our trip with a, that low-key atmosphere that we were expecting from the first night that we spent
Spoilers, that's not how it went down.
It did not happen
so
that way.
About 10 minutes into being here, this really obnoxious like group of people walk in, and they were like, so I was enjoying it. Like at this point, like I was enjoying it because the bartender was like playing a lot of like just like those mid 2000s like emo, and like it was kind of just like a nostalgia like kick for me.
It was Justin's vibe.
It was definitely my vibe at that point in time. So I was really feeling that. I can see like that not being everybody's thing. But on a Thursday night, I don't see like why anybody would want this Irish pub to turn into a rave. Like
which is what happened.
Yeah. So like these people come in, like they're like begging to like take over the music, and the bartender, like they basically end up striking a deal with the bartender. Like, hey, if we can go out right now and bring 30 people back to this pub, will you let me take over the music? And he agreed.
Yeah, he's like, sure, because that's not gonna happen.
I don't think he did not think that this guy was gonna be able to pull 30 people in. Sure enough, like 10 minutes later, they had I feel like they went over that expectation of 30 people. Like was
the bar got packed. They were standing on the bar
playing the most obnoxious music. They were yelling, and I was like, oh my god.
It became like, and I realized the more we're talking about this, we sound just really old and not fun.
I have no problem. Like, no, I love like high energy and like there's a time and a place for that sort of thing. I'm all for that. That was not it.
But it wasn't that. It was
it felt like very out of place there. And it was just like, it wasn't a gradual transformation. It just kind of like happened all of a sudden. I was like,
what was crazy to me is on the corner of that street, there was like a rooftop bar where there was like a DJ.
There were several bars with like DJs and like music. Like, go to there.
That's what I was wondering. Like,
I was trying to have like a nice, like relaxing, like unwinding pub experience.
Well, my favorite part of what happened next though is all of this is going on, and the bartender must have noticed our demeanor just change, and they had a TV on. They were just playing stuff in the background. I think we were kind of focused. They were playing like the Avengers movie at one point, so we were kind of just staring off, really just exhausted.
Yeah.
The bartender walks up and goes, hey, can I turn on Star Wars for you? And we just
taking requests for the movie. Like, you can't listen to the music you want. You're not getting the energy you want, but maybe you can watch some Star Wars.
So we just turned to each other like, is that
the vibe
what we give
off?
Like that we'd rather just be watching Star Wars somewhere?
I wouldn't have minded.
It just seemed really on the nose, or like too. I've never been racially profiled before, I don't think, and I felt very racially profiled. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, that was kind of the nightcap to our trip.
We hung out there for quite a while longer. Actually, had a few drinks, and it was our last night, so I wasn't ready to like call it quits. I wanted to stay out, so I got a free beer out of it from one of the bartenders took pity on us and gave us a free beer. So yeah, I appreciated that. It was, I still enjoyed it. It just the musically, it was not quite what I was feeling for like that, like just exhausted night out that I was having. But yeah, that kind of ended our trip. The following morning we got up and we got to the airport, flew home.
We did our thing.
I was so ready to just be home at this point. We mentioned, like 4 hours ago when we started this podcast, we mentioned that, like there have been several trips that we've taken where, like we really fall in love with these places, and like we want to, like, I don't know, like Boston was one where like I wanted to stay so bad. This was one of those examples though where like it just made me really appreciate home. Like as much as I enjoyed Colorado and Denver and I had so much fun, like I was really appreciative of like, just our home and our kids and
I missed our kids so much.
And it was so nice to be able to come home and just relax. Like we had the foresight to like, we came back on a Friday, so I had Saturday and Sunday to just relax at home with the kids and take it easy. And
I do have to say though, my cup was filled.
Our cup was very full.
That trip, it's exactly what we needed. Like you said earlier, we fit about like 4 years worth of date nights into this 1 week, and we made every moment count.
And I think it was definitely, it was important not only for like appreciating our home, but appreciating each other and like having, I think that, you know, as much as like a lot of people will preach like that, you know, you need to be spending all your time with your kids. Like, I think it's very important to get time alone with your spouse and kind of just, you know, have that time to kind of like date each other. And
but trust me, we do spend all of our time with our kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, just having a little bit of alone time together is important wherever we can squeeze it in, which we're trying to with this podcast too a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to find new ways of getting kind of healthier dosages of that. But I do think that for the, like our next vacation, like I'm super excited to take the kids somewhere, which I'm surprised that I'm saying that because the last like 2 trips that we've taken with them have been exhausting. But then again, so is our solo trips.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I'm ready. I can't wait to travel with the kids.
I think a lot of it is just me like wanting to do all the things. Like, I think that we need to just book something for our next trip that is just, we're going to go here and we're just going to relax, and we'll see what we end up getting, but like what we end up doing. But I think that I just need to like learn to let go a little bit. I don't have to do all the things. Maybe I'll go there again someday if I really feel like I want to do a lot. But I'm looking forward to, you know, doing a trip with the kids and having that experience with them and like letting them kind of like see like some of the things that we're getting to see. Like that was the biggest thing about like being in the Rocky Mountain National Parks, was just like taking in all this beauty. Like there was literally a point where like I felt like fucking Frodo Baggins, like just up up in the mountains.
With the marmots.
With the marmots. And I was like, dude,
sheep.
like, I wish I had the rest of my little hobbits with me and dwarves.
I know. I missed my hobbits, and I can't wait to show them the world and pass on the love of traveling to them.
Yeah. So
hopefully next time without the swollen feet.
I'm sure there will be something.
And the avocado lips.
And you didn't even get into the worst part of your altitude sickness for the week.
And I won't either.
TMI.
I will spare the listeners that joy.
But yeah, on that note, yeah, it's thanks for listening to us talk about like our trip and vacation and everything. And, you know, like travel, it's something that we really love doing. We don't get to do it enough. It's great to be able to do it together. It's also great to do it as a family, and I'm looking forward to like growing and just kind of like experiencing so many things as a family and as a couple, and hopefully we get to do this for many years to come. You know, I'm hoping that I'm, you know, an 85-year-old man sitting across from you at a pizza place in Colorado someday. And
what was like, that road we saw that beaver on?
Except not that pleasantly. I wouldn't say it that nicely, but no, like life's going to be full of journeys. And thanks for, I guess, listening in on this one. And yeah, if you got any recommendations for some places that we should check out, whether it be just us or with the kids, I mean, let us know. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, give us some suggestions on where we can either go next, or if you've ever been to Colorado, where we could go if we ever go back one day.
Or, you know, just go to the comments and tell us like, oh, you guys are a bunch of stupid tourists. You went to all the worst places. I mean, that's cool too. That's like your opinion, man.
You live and you learn.
You live and you learn. Yeah, this has been the Cupful podcast. Our cup is full.
Filled.
For the moment.
Until next time.
See ya.